Hi everyone, we're just waiting for people to log on. Welcome to Are You OK Day. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll just start in a couple of minutes. Excellent. All right, so we might kick off and we'll go ahead and start our presentation. So thank you so much for everyone for coming along today. This session is also going to be recorded, so if you're catching us on or this webinar on a recording, welcome. Thank you so much for clicking on it, and hopefully you'll be able to experience the same experience we have right now. So what I'll do is I'll just start with our acknowledgement of country. So I would like to acknowledge with respects to the earths, the skies, the waterways and spiritual systems of the traditional owners of the land on which we work. And we're currently on the Wurundjeri people well, we're currently on the Wurundjeri precinct at the moment, but I also acknowledge the rest of our Kulin nations here in Melbourne. I acknowledge our Aboriginal students and families and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. I do this in the spirit of reconciliation as we move to a place of justice and partnership, as together we walk on this gentle land. So welcome, thank you so much for joining me today. We talk a lot about, and we've seen a lot to do around Are You OK Day today, but I'd just like to give you a little bit of intro if you haven't gone ahead and or heard about Are You OK Day. So Are You OK is a harm prevention charity that encourages people to stay connected and to have conversations that can help others through difficult times in their lives. Are You OK Day focuses on building motivation, confidence and skills to help givers. The person who can have a meaningful conversation with someone who is struggling with life. So Are You OK encourages and empowers people to invest more time in their personal relationships and be more alert of those around them. Have meaningful conversations, as I said before, and if in need, connect someone to appropriate supports so they don't end up in a crisis. So that's what we're wanting to prevent with Are You OK Day. You know, having someone come to a crisis, we're wanting to have this as a prevention. So again, thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited to have you here. What I'll do is I'll invite all our panelists up and we'll go ahead and and get started. JJ, if I could just get you to help Jessica with her camera, that'd be also fantastic. Oh, there you are. Oh, hello. Excellent, excellent. So what I'll do is my name is Kate. I work with the Student Development Programs team. I bring lots of really fun initiatives to our students. My students are my passion, and I really can't wait to have you guys here, but also work with you in the future. What I'll do is I'll start with my lucky first, Marsha, if you would love to introduce yourself and sort of give us a bit of an understanding around your context at Melbourne University, whether that's role or your role or if you're a student, and then also why do you think talking about mental health is really important and how maybe it could change? Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Yeah, my name is Marsha, and I work with the Equity and Disability team at the University of Melbourne, this university. So I help with meeting with students and assessing what the university can do in order to make their time at the university a lot easier and also a bit more equal. I also help process special consideration applications, and I do outreach calls to students as well, just in case they need a bit of extra help, or if I think that they can be connected to some more supports, because there's so many supports at the university that it's really difficult to know what they are, and it's not a student's job to know that, it's my job. So I'm always happy to do that. In addition to that, I am also a student at the university, and I'm currently studying psychology, so I do have that knowledge of what it looks like on the outside, which really, really helps. And in terms of talking about mental health, this is something I could probably talk about for ages, but I think it's incredibly important because it helps destigmatize, I think, conversations around mental health. So in a lot of different cultures and in a lot of different families, etc., it can be a really scary topic to talk about. For some people, it might be seen as weak to be experiencing mental health illness or issues, and that's just proven not to be true. The more that we talk about mental health, the better it is for everyone, the more that people can get support and access supports. And yeah, I just think it's super important for all of us to have that access, that we can all get better.
Yeah, fantastic. I love it how you are, you are a student at Melbourne University, but you come with this wealth of knowledge. I've worked with you in prior jobs, Marsha, and you do really promote a sense of mental well-being. And I think talking about mental health as like a health, going to the doctor, and but also promoting mental well-being as just a norm, and we deal with it on our everyday to day. And I see you doing that with all of our students, so thank you so much, and I'm really excited to have you here. I might pass over really quickly and get Lucy's introduction. I'm so excited to hear this one, Lucy. Welcome, and I'll hand it over to you.
Kate. My name's Lucy. I'm really happy to be here today. So my name's Lucy, obviously, and I guess as part of my background, I started studying psychology a couple of years ago at the uni, and now I'm doing my PhD with the Melbourne Neuropsychiatric Centre, and my PhD topic is on essentially looking at resilience development in adolescence and childhood development, as well as the temporal dynamics. So how does resilience develop in this period of a lot of change, and what sort of factors kind of influence how people develop resilience? So I guess resilience is the main topic of my PhD, and yeah, I'm really excited. I have the opportunity to look at something that I'm super interested in. As In addition, I'm also working as a research assistant at the Origin Youth Mental Health Centre, so looking at suicide prevention and related things on that as well. So I am a big passion in, I guess, youth mental health and suicide prevention, just because of my, I guess, background, and also my connection with people who I know also experience a lot of these difficulties, and that's why I have a lot of passion in this, and I always like to see things from a positive aspect. So that's why I want to look at resilience in my PhD. And I guess this also links to why I think mental health conversations are really, really important, because this really allows people to have this conversation with others. And like Marsha said, mental health can be a frightening topic for some individuals, and it's a very, I guess, private thing for many individuals. And just the ability for the public to think that it's an okay topic to talk about is going to really allow those that's struggling a little bit to know that it is okay to talk about these things, and promote, I guess, more chance of accessing to help if needed. Yeah, so that's I'll pass it back to Kate.
Thank you so much, Lucy. I didn't even know about half of the things that you were doing, one with your research, but also working with Origin. So that is, wow, what an incredible human to have. Thank you so much. It's really interesting with your resilience, you know, when you're focusing and you said, you know, looking at youth and also, you know, that growth of how we learn to also talk and learn resilience growing up. And it's all different between, you know, different cultures, between different influences we have in our lives. Where do you think, you know, talking about, you know, university students and also, you know, staff, you know, is it still possible to learn resilience? Is it something that you think is, even if we haven't had a lot of it pushed onto us, or even positive resilience pushed onto us when we're younger, is there something, you know, can we still learn that? Is it possible?
Yeah, great question. So I guess my research primarily focuses on youth and adolescents, and I guess the current definition of adolescence is actually up until the age of 24. So university students, majority of university students would still fall under this, I guess, this new definition of adolescence. And I am really keen to look into how this develops. So my entire, I guess, part of my PhD is going to be looking at how this resilience really develops through the process and how does it change across time. So yeah, it'd be really interesting to see, and looking at some factors that can promote resilience. And I don't have any, I guess, academic background research to support this, but I do believe that resilience is something that everyone can develop. And something that research has looked into is the friendship quality and social connections. And I remember seeing a TED talk on this, where they did this massive longitudinal research for over, like, I guess, like 50 or so years. And they found that the people that was the, I guess, happiest, or that have better mental health well-being towards the end, was the people that had the best social connections. So it's not just in, I guess, this adolescence period, but it's throughout lifespan that resilience can develop. And so, but I guess it's just in my research, adolescence is that period of a lot of changes. So it could be a point at which we can target interventions in the future to kind of develop resilience for those that may be at risk for mental health. Yeah. You're on mute, Kate.
Oh, there we go. Mute. Okay, there we go. Thank you so much for that. That's really, and it, you know, it makes sense. Having more people around you to support you, having that community to upbring you, is something that, you know, we all appreciate, even if we're not the social butterfly we think we are. So that's fantastic. Okay, Jessica, thank you so much for joining us. Jessica's actually interstate. She's made it all the way into Melbourne University's IUOK Day. So thank you so much for joining us here today, Jess.
No worries at all. I am a social worker in the Indie School in Wagga Wagga. I know that there's indie colleges and indie schools all through Melbourne, and we're in a special education service that provides an alternative learning environment for disengaged youth, which can be for lots of different reasons, whether it's mental health, family dynamics breaking down, lots and lots of different reasons that young people need that alternative learning environment. So we really focus on a holistic support moving forward and looking at the young person's future. So whether that is university or whether it's a trade, and how we can support them to achieve their best, which is really, really exciting, and just a different way of looking at an education for these young people that might have just, I suppose, slipped through the cracks if that alternative wasn't available. Another thing that we do here is supporting young people to get access to services in regional New South Wales and regional areas. That's a really big barrier at the moment. There's huge wait lists and huge constraints on what supports can be available for young people and our older demographic here. So I'm not sure if that's something that you guys in Melbourne are facing as well at all, wait lists and access and things. So so that's definitely something that we're trying to improve on and advocate for our young people to gain access to that. So yeah.
Excellent. And I guess, you know, just we've had a chat about mental health before, and you're very knowledgeable in this area, being a social worker and being so amongst the youth currently. But I'm just wondering what you think about why you think carrying on that mental health talk with not only the students that you work with, but within rural communities is so important.
Absolutely. So obviously there's a big stigma around mental health and that that's still seen in our regional communities, and normalizing these discussions and days like that's why I really love Are You OK Day, because it not only starts the conversation, but it helps to continue it on. And people like our farming community, that even though we are getting better, and the farmers and the regional communities are getting better at acknowledging and talking about these things.
Yeah.
Are You OK Day, I suppose, puts a little reminder on it that mental health is still here, and that it is important to talk about it all the time.
Yeah, fantastic.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for doing the work that you're currently doing. I know in Wagga Wagga it's and wider as well. So that's excellent. Thank you so much. All right. Well, I guess now intros are over, and we all know a little bit more about our panelists. We'll get into some sticky questions. And so I guess the first thing is and what around Are You OK Day, I know sometimes coming out and being like, oh, are you okay, to just your friend is good. I know I had a friend call me this morning really sweetly and just checking in on me, and we had a really good chat, and it was nice and made me feel really great and pumped up for this webinar. But, you know, what are some of the things that we could be looking for when we're actually thinking about, you know, our people are actually okay, and how are they really going? What's behind the facade at the moment? I know, let's start off with Marsha again. You know, what do you think you would be looking for, or what do you think some of the signs you've seen in the past?
Yeah, I think living in the times that we do now, I think any time's a great time to check in on people. Yeah, even if they look like they're fine, they've got it together, they're still baking banana bread, you know, it's still worth just checking in. I know that especially around lockdown, I wasn't someone that really experienced too many for lack of a better term, lows, but lockdown happened, and now here I am, you know, experiencing a lot more issues than I did before, which is why I thought it was really, really valuable for me to be starting those conversations so early, and why I really valued the university placing such an importance on having these conversations when I started working here, because it helped me identify, okay, this is what I'm noticing in myself. What are we going to do about it? What do I think I need right now? So from that, and also in my work with the equity and disability team, I think just general signs like social withdrawal is often what happens for people, even with your friends. They might not be responding to you or showing up to things or stuff like that. And that might be because they just want their space, and that's okay. But it also might be signifying something else. In addition, I think, you know, concerning language is sometimes used. People are really experiencing quite significant mental distress, which is what I noticed primarily in my work at the university. Things like, oh, I don't think I'm good enough, I can't do it anymore. You know, I've got no one around to support me. When people say that they have no one to support them, that really raises a bit of a red flag for me to say, okay, what can we do now to get supports? Let's show you all the supports that you do have. And that you matter, and people care about you. So I think those are some of my most important factors that I look at, though there are quite a few more.
Yeah, and I guess like with SEDS, or with special consideration, with the special consideration team, there's also a lot of we do get quite a lot of students using the service to make sure that they can keep up with university while working with their mental health. I know that there was a real sense of urgentness at the start of last semester. I mean, semester one at the start of the school year, that people were saying that they were lonely and they're really seeking connection. Do you feel like that's even something that you would say would be maybe a bit of a light bulb moment, being like, oh, this person's really asking for something and identifying something? Do you think that's something to do with mental health as well?
Definitely. People are inherently social creatures. So they need to be around others. And I was saying this is a personal story, but I was saying to my mum yesterday morning, I'm constantly talking about like, oh, people are so annoying, but also I'm like, I want to be around them. I think, of course, it's natural for us to want to be around people, and we're so overwhelmed, I think, these days with options that it can get a bit exhausting to the point that you're lonely, but you kind of want to sit in that loneliness and that in that tiredness and that exhaustion. So it can be a bit difficult. So I think you don't necessarily have to have all the answers yourself. That's not, one person can't have all the answers, that's fine. But I think just having someone to go to, or knowing that there is someone you can go to, that can be a friend, a family member, that can be members at the university who can point you in the right direction. So even if they don't have the capacity to solve your issues or really give you an answer, they can at least say, hey, I know about XYZ services or XYZ people, and they can really help you out. I think that's really valuable.
Yeah, cool. And we'll be touching on that a little bit later in the webinar today around, what happens if I'm not okay, but someone has approached me, and we can talk about that services soon. Jess, I'm wondering if you have anything more to add to that sort of list around, normalizing when people are actually asking for help and how they've not sometimes verbalized that a bit differently.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do a lot of work around identifying not only verbal cues, but if someone isn't maybe eating as much, so then they're not coming to and having dinner with the family, or not coming and having dinner with their housemates, they're just being more recluse, and questioning that, why aren't you coming and having dinner with us? Maybe and a particular habit, maybe they go for a morning jog every morning at 6 o'clock and they've stopped doing that, and questioning your friend or your housemate on why have you stopped that. It could just be that they wanted to change their habits, or they're just not enjoying their house dynamic at that point in time. But it could also be that their mental health is declining, and that one question of, are you doing okay, or why have you changed this habit, can really support, be a proactive approach, like you were saying before, Kate, rather than waiting for an escalation or a critical incident to happen.
Right. So like really identifying those motivations as to why things have changed, and seeing if that's a positive or if it's a negative. Really good point. It's not always verbal. And looking at those actions. Nice. Lucy, have you got any other tips or things that you think you've seen personally?
Yeah, so I completely agree with Marsha and Jess regarding just looking for any signs that they've changed, even as a millennial as it might be. When I did the ASSIST training, so the suicide prevention training, one of the things that they really focused on was that if you think that there might be something, you should just check to make sure, because it's
gut reflex.
Yeah, there's no harm in checking with someone, but if you miss something, then there could be, we could be missing out on something that could be really significant there. So yeah, it's always good to, if you see something, just have a really casual chat. Just be like, how are you doing? Why aren't you, for example, like I just said, why aren't you going for your morning jogs now? And it could just be, I'm just trying to change. Maybe I'm going to do, but they could also respond with, I'm not really feeling up to it. And then at that point, you could then really say, hey, look, do you want to have a chat about this?
Yeah, nice. I really like that. And yeah, that, as you said, that gut feeling of if you're seeing something, say something, and yeah, what's the worst that can happen? They can just say no or walk away from it. Yeah. Awesome. And I think one thing that for participants that are going to be watching this and they're feeling like, I don't know if I know this person well enough, they're a work colleague, we have a working relationship, moving on to preparing to actually approach that and trying to work up the guts to go ahead and approach someone can be really scary. But I think something that's really, I guess, always comes at me, and this is sort of not a positive psychology sort of thing, but a bit more of a negative pushback in my brain, is like, who am I and why should I be asking? Why is this on me? And who can ask, are you okay? Jess, who can ask?
Absolutely. I always take the stance that it's better to ask. If you notice something, please do ask. Absolutely. And acknowledge that, oh, look, I might not know you very well, but I've noticed that you haven't been eating with us in the lunchroom, or I've noticed that you haven't been studying here as much lately. Is there something going on? And the person might say nope, and it might be a little bit of an uncomfortable interaction. But asking that question would be better than something happening to that young person. Or I think it's always best to ask if you feel something, to trust that instinct.
Yeah. Fantastic. Have you got anything else to add to that, Marsha? Or I think that's answered it pretty well.
I think that's perfect. Yeah. I think anyone can ask as long as you feel safe and you're prepared to potentially receive the answer no. And ultimately, even if the person you're asking isn't comfortable telling you, that's their business. You don't need to push, but you have put that thought in their head now of, hey, maybe I should talk to someone else about this, like a friend or a family member or someone else. Jess answered that perfectly.
Yeah, so really moving that train of thought and putting that little spark in place is that 2% of change. Yeah, fantastic. So I guess I'll move on to our next question. What should I do if I or someone else isn't okay, especially in a time of isolation and lockdown? We can talk a little bit about services that are available as well, but I know we also have a lot of services at Melbourne University that we can talk about, but even things that are nationwide. We also, just to pop in here, that we do have an international cohort as well that we're missing dearly at the moment, being part of our community, and what could they do, and what would you do as a sequence of things to try and help yourself and also help others? Let's just start, Lucy. I know that was a lot of words thrown at you, Luce, but I know you can take it. There we
go. That's a really good question. I think if you notice that someone is not feeling okay and they've verbally expressed it or non-verbally expressed it, and you've had this conversation, and I guess one important thing is checking whether you have the right mental space to be having this conversation with them. And if so, one really important thing is to just listen to them and without judgment, and just I think a lot of the people that are struggling is just waiting for a person to really listen to what they are going through right now. And a little bit of understanding on why they're feeling this way would really, I guess, make them feel that it's okay to be feeling these feelings. And the other thing is obviously encourage them to seek professional support where possible. So I know that with the CAPS team at Unimelb, they do offer, I guess, an urgent or on the day meeting if possible for those that are first timers to CAPS team, or if there's they will always try their best if you contact them and say, hey, I really need to speak to someone quickly. Like, they can try to arrange a quick thing either on the day or the next available day. So I think that's amazing. And that is obviously through the virtual channels right now as well. So if you're international, you can also use these opportunities. And the other thing is obviously your GPs, your medical health professionals, they are great people. If you do have a good GP, yeah, they are more than happy to have this conversation with you and, you know, then get you to a more specialized team if needed. And yeah, I think that's one thing. And the other thing is to, you know, check on them at a later time to see, hey, how's things going on now? Are you still going through these things? It just, I guess, helps to remind people that it's not just a one conversation thing. It's really about how you're doing, and people do care about how you're doing. So, and obviously this all applies to yourself as well, having this conversation with yourself. Hi, how am I feeling? Am I feeling okay? Have I noticed any change in myself recently? Yeah, and, you know, we're all in a really difficult time right now. I just want to stress that we all need a little bit extra of self-compassion right now. That's when it's really, really needed to just, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. And for people, you know, Lucy mentioned a fantastic resource at Melbourne University called CAPS, which is the Counselling and Psychological Services. And they're located at Stop 1 on Parkville and also at South Bank. But as she said, you know, you can book in to see a therapist there. There are counsellors and qualified psychologists. And they also have a 24-hour hotline, an after-hours hotline that you can go ahead and contact after hours, 1 a.m. If something is happening and you need to talk to someone, they're available. This is free to our students. And then regardless of whether you're overseas or here, you can have your initial consultation and talk with a therapist here. And also our counselling services are free. They're completely free to our students and our staff. So please be aware of that. Marsha, I know you're from SEDS and you deal with a lot of students on the day-to-day who are really needing, they've applied for support, let's say. They've gone ahead and done the hard yards and identified what's going on. Is there any other services that you know, SEDS included, that you would also suggest students to go to?
In terms of mental health supports, yeah, CAPS is an excellent resource. If there's something a bit different, such as potentially threatening behaviours that are happening for students, they can also contact Safer Communities, and they would be able to assist the student and also potentially link them to other support services available as well. Mm-hmm. If you're not sure where to start with university services, I always recommend booking in an appointment with the admin team at Stop 1. I used to work for that team. I know them very well. And a lot of students do come in very overwhelmed at all the different things they can do. So admin can help you just figure out what your next step will be. Mm-hmm. And I think that's also really helpful. And in terms of other support that students might be seeking, potentially outside of the university, services like Headspace, Beyond Blue, Origin, Lifeline, they're all there. And something that I find really useful, and this is because I'm really interested in mental health, that's what I'm studying, I like to follow things on Instagram. So nice. Previous services I mentioned, just following a few things. So even if you're not studying psychology, but you want to keep this in your head and learn a little bit more, I think that's really helpful. And it's a really, really easy way just to educate yourself about how to help yourself and also how to help others.
Yeah, nice. And Jess, I guess just bringing it back to the question that I originally started with, you know, how could I or someone ask if someone is okay, especially if they're in isolation. You know, you've been in lockdown in New South Wales as well as Victoria and the rest of Australia. You know, how have you gone about connecting with your friends and family and also students while not being face to face with them?
Absolutely, it's really difficult. I suppose rather than having those formal contacts and those formal discussions and just those random check-ins can really make a lot of impact. So randomly checking in and just sending little messages is really a really nice way to connect and let your family and loved ones know that you are thinking of them even though you're in lockdown. My recommendation would be that if someone does disclose that they are having a difficult time and they can't keep yourself safe, it would be really important to call 000 if someone can't keep themselves safe. You or one of your friends or family, please do call 000 or your emergency hotline. And my only other recommendation would be that if someone isn't comfortable calling Access Line or calling Kids Helpline, or Headspace have a really good online chat group where you can chat to a health professional over instant messenger, and I know that can be really confronting talking to someone on the phone, so that's just a bit of a lighter way to start that discussion and feel like you're getting support from your house.
Yeah, nice. I didn't know about the chat room. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah, nice. Okay, cool. Okay, thank you so much all for that. I think, you know, if we take a step back, you know, I mentioned at the start, or recently, you know, a really good friend just gave me a call to have a chat this morning and to check in and to, you know, she does that anyway. We do that both, you know, to each other. But she just said, hey, just wanting to give you a call. I know it's in the work day. I know it's really random, but I'm just ringing to call and see how you're going. You know, I miss you. And it was just so lovely to hear. And it sort of opened up. It just instantly was a conversation. And we share things quite openly, but I'm just wondering how you have been asked if you've been okay prior, and how it's taken you maybe not off guard in a negative way, but it's actually made you feel like, oh, that person actually cares. And I'm actually going to be okay to talk to this person. So obviously that was from a friendship sort of check-in, but I'm wondering if you have been asked before. Lucy, have you had that experience?
So just in response to that, because today is Are You OK Day, and this morning on my work group channel, this colleague actually sent a very lovely message on our, communications panel, and it was just like, how are you feeling today? And, you know, react with this emoji if you're feeling like steady, react with this if you're just feeling like meh, react with this if you just want to have a quick chat. And I thought that was really amazing because it wasn't, confrontation in any way. It just gave people a chance to share how they're feeling and having this opportunity to share with others, hey, this is how I'm feeling now, and knowing that others do acknowledge your feeling is a great feeling to have. And it's really going to bring up the conversations if someone did have something to say. Like on that thread, someone just started talking about how they're feeling a little bit burnt out with all the work that they're doing especially for our mental health professionals that are working through telehealth channels, that, you know, it's a little bit harder in these situations. And they just started having this conversation and others was able to join. And I just think that is such a great way for people to start conversations. And it's not just for Are You OK Day, just every now and then checking in with your either work colleagues or with your friends. I really love Kate and your friend's way of checking on with each other. That's amazing, to just call and say, hey, I miss you. How's it going? Yeah, that's really great. I do that with my friends as well. So yeah, that I think that all these are great ways of getting in touch with people. Yeah.
I like that sort of, that group message. I know my colleague JJ does that every single morning with our team, and so lovely. But I really acknowledge that it's also like non-confrontational, so you can opt in. It's an opt-in sort of, are you okay? And so it sort of gives people the space to sort of think and be like, oh, how do I actually want to go about this? So yeah, it's a really light touch and simple thing that you can do now, like get your phone and message someone now. Jess, how have you been, put you on the spot, how have you been, asked, are you okay before, and how did you take it?
Yeah, absolutely. So in a professional context, I suppose we check in, especially during lockdown at the moment. We've been checking in, going around the room and seeing if anyone has any big tasks on today, and whether they need support for that, which has been really nice. That check in every morning, and acknowledging that some people just have really big days on, and we might just need some help. So that's one way that we've been really trying to support each other. In my personal life, I am very bad at responding to text messages. I read them, I just forget to respond. I just forget. So a lot of my friends and family send me text messages, and so I know that they're thinking of me, but there's no obligation for me to respond, which is really nice because I just forget. So I quite often get random text messages just saying thinking of you, and I know that there's no obligation for me to respond. They're just checking in. So I really like that. And one thing that I really like also is when we have a group chat as well, and you don't have to respond, but if someone does need something, there's that open door policy, I suppose, so, which is really nice.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. I've definitely been one of the people that Jess hasn't replied to. So.
Yeah. Yes, you have, and I do apologize, Kate.
No, I bet that's the point, right?
Exactly.
Fantastic. And Marsha, I know working with you down in the admin team, as we've mentioned before, they implemented some really cool workplace wellness, because we are constantly seeing students and supporting them. And I thought it was really good that Lucy and Jess both brought up, how do we look at mental health in the workplace? How were you part of that? And I think you were one of the initiatives that put that in place. So talk to me a bit more about, how that happened, and also if you could do maybe like how you've checked in. I know you check in with your mum, but other people as well. You're very good at it.
Love talking to my mum. So when I worked in admin, definitely wellbeing was something that I really, really enjoyed looking into. And I think it was because I just noticed quite a few gaps in education of staff, which sounds bad, but I'll elaborate more on that. Because as you said, when you're working for the university, you're helping students, you're constantly hearing some quite distressing stories. And in that team, you're not necessarily trained to be able to handle that story or to regulate your own emotional response to that story as well. So noticing that was happening, and noticing that my colleagues were saying, hey, I'm feeling really burnt out. And it wasn't because we didn't want to help people. We were very much able to help people, but it is exhausting being in that space a lot. So I did go to my manager and I said, hey, it'd be really, really good if we had a bit more time to check in together as a team through multiple different channels. And that was through mental health training. It was through us going to mental health first aid training as well. And it was also through just really silly group activities that we would do that would just help us get to know each other as a team, so that we could understand more about each other and just help each other a bit more, especially noticing when we're a bit tired or exhausted or burnt out. And also doing those sessions really helped give staff what they needed to feel supported to do that kind of role as well. So to say, okay, if a student is doing XYZ, then what are we going to do in ourselves to regulate ourselves and also help the student? What supports can we give the student, because we are not a mental health service, though we're often the place that students go to the first time. And CAPS is an excellent resource, and I will talk about them all the time. We did a session with the CAPS team with a beautiful lady called Alison, where we discussed our experiences in the role and what we struggled with, and she helped give us a lot of tools to handle that. So one of my favorite things that she said is, if you're in an interaction where you're feeling quite stressed and you're feeling like you're starting to go to this other place instead of being there, how do you stay mindful and stay grounded? And she said what helped her is kind of like rubbing her legs or feeling the chair underneath her, or feeling, just getting some sort of tactile aspect in there. And that helped me a lot. And there are other tricks as well that helps other people. It's not a one size fits all. So yeah, I did a lot of work in that space because I just loved it, and luckily had an excellent manager who just let me run wild. And then in addition to that, with my own personal life, I'm very, very blessed to have friends that share all the time and ask, how I'm feeling, and love to talk about it really, really deeply. So it's really, really good. What I like to do with one of my friends is we send voice notes to each other throughout the day. So, it's not like a commitment of a phone call, but it's also not as annoying as text. So we can just talk with our voices, and it's like monologuing to each other for minutes about how we're feeling. And it's just so much fun. And I also have a friend who refuses to text me back half the time. But I think knowing that she's like that, but she likes to have just a check-in, is enough for me. So I think it's just, having a good support network and understanding what each of your different friends needs, and they understand what you need as well, is really, really valuable in your own personal life.
Yeah, thank you. That was amazing. And I remember being in that conversation with Alison and with all of my teammates. We were in a big circle, and yeah, Alison was really talking about that tactile, like, okay, if someone's telling you something really important and it's becoming overwhelming, and you're going, I don't know how to take this, or what do I do, when they're actually speaking to me. I remember starting this practice where I'd curl my toes, and then tense all of my muscles going up. And that would really draw me back in and really make sure that I'm giving them all, but also just releasing a little bit of tension once you've released all those muscles. So that was my takeaway from that. So it was really interesting that you pointed that out. I use that today. Fantastic. We've got 10 minutes left of this webinar. It's gone so quickly, and yeah, it's been really interesting what's already come out of it thus far. If you do, and if you are watching currently, there is a chat box down the bottom, and I would love, if you have anything to ask the panel, or would like something to be discussed and have some opinions on, please put it in the chat box. We're more than happy to take or to read those and voice them in the panel. I guess the last thing that I want to have a bit of a look at and tease out is, we've talked about resources that we can give to students and staff that can be used definitely at Melbourne University, but also with friends and family in the wider community, and having those resources. And we've talked about, what is appropriate, or what you could sort of do in the context of maybe if you're not like a best friend with someone, how we can sort of do that light touch check-in, and how that can come across to individuals, whether they're staff or friends. I thought that was really interesting around how we dealt with it differently, but there's definitely a way that we could deal with it. And I'm just wondering, what would be your most important thing that you would like to tell people about mental health, and how, what would be like the one thing, if you wanted someone to hear, and and take away, what would be the one thing that you would want them to take away today? Yeah, or your biggest takeaway as well. Lucy, can I hear yours?
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually already touched on this point before, but other than obviously talking to your friends and family, your networks, it's the other thing is just really, really have a bit of self-compassion. So I know I struggled with this for a long time, just because of my background growing up. I was always like criticized for things that you're not doing well enough, but so I have this behavior of always self-criticizing, but then I've slowly learnt to really have a bit of self-compassion and think about really, like, this is a great thing that my therapist shared with me. So this idea of self-compassion. So thinking about, instead of mercilessly judging yourself and criticizing yourself for like a lot of things that's going on, or like your inadequacies or shortcomings or whatever, like a bad assignment grade or whatever it might be, think about self-compassion. So being kind to yourself and being understanding of you in this situation. So instead of just thinking about yourself, your qualities, but thinking about yourself in the situation that you are in currently. So this is, I think this is especially important for us because we are all in a very difficult situation right now. Think of it yourself, say if you did get a bad grade for an assignment, you know, recently, think about what's currently going on for you. Are you having a lot of extra work because you're at home, or are you struggling to pay rent because of not having work payments, or are you just not in a great environment at home to be able to focus on your studies as great as before? Then these are all going to impact you. It's not about you as a person, but it's because of this interaction with your environment that these things has happened. So that is my greatest advice to give to everyone out there. Just when you think about this, when these negative thoughts about self comes up, think about, would you say the same thing to a friend or a colleague who are in the same situation? Just think about that for a little bit, and then that might help you to think about the situation a little bit different.
Amazing. That was such a boom movement for me as well, because who is our biggest critic? It's ourselves. So yeah, thank you for reminding me of that today. That's really great. Thank you so much, Lucy. And I can see how that's reflected already in your research right now, and obviously that's such a passion for you. So yeah, fantastic. Jess, I'm wondering, yeah, if you could answer the same and see what your biggest takeaway is.
Absolutely. So my biggest piece of advice would be that it's not a comfortable conversation to have. The first time that you check in with someone, check in with a friend, it is an uncomfortable feeling, and sitting in that uncomfortable feeling and listening to your friend and offering that support, it can be quite difficult to do that, and to have that confidence to stand up and check in with someone. So acknowledging that it can be difficult is really important for you as well. So making sure that if you are going to check in with someone, that you are in a safe mind frame as well, that you are in a space where you can take on someone else's load as well. That is really important, because if you're in an unsafe place and then you're bringing someone else's concerns on as well, it can also impact on our mental health. So yeah, really acknowledging where you're at. But again, coming back to that, checking in with someone, even if you're uncomfortable, and even if it is a slight change, please do check in with your friends and your family. It's really important.
So yeah, that's fantastic, Jess. Thank you so much. And I think that's the spearhead of what Are You OK Day is making sure everyone, so the self and the community surrounding that person is okay. And and I think that's wise words said, making sure if you're not okay, you can voice that and say, I can see there's changes happening. It's happened for me as well currently. And I'm going to go do something about it. Do you want to come with come with
Yeah.
me on this journey? And so you don't have to take that on yourself. I really like that. Yeah, self-care. Yeah, awesome.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Jess.
No
And
worries.
Marsha, lucky last.
Yeah, what Lucy and Jess said was freaking awesome. I think for mine, it's yeah, well-being and health aren't restricted to one day of the year. So I think that understanding the intention of Are You Okay Day is probably the most important part of it, because I recognize that there are a lot of criticisms for this day to be, you know, a band-aid for mental health in the workplace, or, you know, in countries and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's really important to still talk about it and understand, okay, what is the message behind this? Because if you understand that intention, it does allow you to be a bit more mindful with yourself and with others. And it might also potentially inform structural change, institutional change, because the more that we normalize these behaviors, the more that we normalize help seeking and talking about how we really are, the more likely that something is going to happen in the future. So it does start with us. And the more that we do it, yeah, the better I think that it will get.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for all of you for joining me today, and
There's
for
a question, Kate. Sorry.
oh, there is one question. We have 2 minutes, so if you guys could stick around for another 2-3 minutes, that'd be great. But the question was from Shari. Thank you so much, Shari, for popping it in. Would you suggest applying workplace advice to tutes for students? Wow. I feel like everyone just nodded their head. Do you want to start off, Lucy, for us?
Yeah, so I'm actually a tutor for, I guess, psychology subjects now. So I think that is a great idea, Shari, to just check in with students how they're doing. I tried to do this in the first 5 minutes of the tute where everyone's just coming in, and it's a little bit awkward because people are still turning on the cameras and things like that. So I always try to say, hey, how's everyone going? How's your week being? How's assignments coming along? So yeah, it would be great to, I guess, the university as a whole to think about these kind of things. But I guess starting small, our tutors, I know psychology tutors definitely try to do this, to check in with students. I can't say for the whole, but I myself try to do this. So I think that's a great advice, Sherry.
Sorry, my computer just froze from me. Great timing. Marsha, what do you think? Dropping in on tutes and actually teaching this to our students, because it's now being pushed through primary schools to high schools. Where is it missing at university?
I think it definitely does help. I mean, education is a proven intervention into reducing stigma of mental health, and improving help-seeking behaviours as well. So I think if it is taught to more people, that would be wonderful. And I mean, it is taught obviously in psychology subjects, and obviously the people studying it usually are already interested in that stuff anyway. So I think it would benefit in other aspects and subjects in the university as well, especially where it might be even more difficult, even more competitive to get anywhere in those sort of subjects or disciplines. I think, I'm essentially just agreeing with Lucy. I think it'd be really, really worth educating it to anyone that will listen.
Yeah, fantastic. And just moving into, you're currently at indie school, so they obviously have a high school and a college, TAFE-based program. How has it been implemented in your workplace already and in your classrooms?
Absolutely. So we follow the Berry Street model. I don't know if anyone's aware of the Berry Street education model.
Big fan.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really great model. And so we check in with our students every morning. We have a ready to learn scale, and each student checks in, and really normalizing those check-ins and normalizing that, I'm a 2 out of 5 today, and breaking down, why aren't you ready to learn? Like, have you not had breakfast? Did you have a fight with mum today? And breaking down that, those emotional reactions with the students so they can identify that have those skills as they grow into adults. And I think mental health support and education really does kind of peter off at the after they leave school, whether they go into a trade or go to uni. And so I definitely think changing that would be an awesome initiative.
Yeah, great. Thank
Really
you. And
needed.
yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. And I know Berry Street does wonders within, they're from Victoria, from Melbourne. So yeah. And actually the director of Berry Street has done a doctorate at Melbourne University. So we're really, really proud of Berry Street, and they're an incredible group. But yeah, so we are just a little bit past. We've had so much to talk about and so much incredible insight. So I would just like to say a big thank you to Marsha, Jess, and Lucy. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for giving so much of your energy, education, and your everyday to helping our community evolve in the mental health space and the mental wellness space as well. So yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. And yeah, we're all going to sign off, and have a really fantastic day, guys. And I wish you all well. Please reach out if you need anything. And yeah, we're always here. All right, take care, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.